had no idea that drawing one line on one document could make a big difference.
Oh, yeah, boxing things out. Oh, yeah, because, see, I was explaining that to Paul earlier. 100, 200, 500,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, a piece of paper was beyond expensive. I mean, that was like, you could probably buy gold cheaper than a piece of paper. It was, whatever, probably took a month to make a piece of paper. And, everything was parchment back then, like, sheepskin and stuff like that. It was very hard to find anything to write on, like look at, what the Egyptians did. Man, those guys wrote on stone. Oh, my Jesus Lord. Imagine how long it took to write a letter on stone. So you could have 57 different topics going on one piece of paper, but you just box it off. Say, okay, this pertains to this pertains to that pertains to that. It's like, well, you just write it on another piece of paper. Well, now we get paper, instantly. It's a penny a sheet, whatever. But when it was hundreds of dollars a sheet, you would box things off. Paper was beyond valuable. So that's why I explained to him the way he boxed off his name at the very top, where he boxed off his court. I said, man, don't box off the court. I said, let that become part of the document. Don't box it off. I said, because if they really want to, and they want to take it, like literally, they'll say, why did this guy box off his court? Is it a separate document? Is he really, what's he doing? But we were going over the paperwork, I don't know, at least a week, sending back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And like I said to John here, I said, you know what, I might just give up, and I might just do the damn thing for him. Just find me a computer and just, I'll be done in 2-3 minutes. Like to me, to do a lawsuit, man, if it takes me 20 minutes, I'd be amazed. It's funny, I wrote like a habeas corpus for Frank in the front seat of my mom's car the other day. Man, I just flew. I just wrote it like really fast. And it might have taken me 2-3 minutes to do a habeas corpus. I said, here, just let Frank read this through the glass and tell him to write it down and mail it to me, and have him read it out loud. He reads it out loud, at least everybody in the prison system or the detention center heard him, and it's all videotaped, and it's all audio taped. So that way when he sends it out, they can't say, oh, that's not what Frank really wants to do. Carl's doing this. Frank don't want to do it. Carl's doing it. So I told my mom to have him sign it, write it as a notice, and send it out of the fucking detention center, and I'll fucking make sure that it gets before the court, and I'll get him I'll get him into a competent jurisdiction. That's basically what I wrote. I said, I require to place the case that is now Augusta County Juvenile Domestic Relations Court, case number to be placed before a competent jurisdiction in accordance to the common law. And I say another battery guy.
I can share this before Carl gets back. We found a nice courthouse that was away from all the big cities, where the people like to be pretty much like, and that's been useful because when I went down there, the people were very helpful and kind, and you're not part of a machine when you get there. And I recorded most of what I got. They bumped me from one clerk to another, and when I went up to see the second clerk, the clerk and master was actually a very helpful man, and the clerk tried to change my paperwork and actually struck a line through my first copy of my paperwork where it said court. And I looked at the clerk and master who I'd already spoken to, and I asked him, I said, it's very important that this reads this particular way. And he looked at the paperwork and he read it, and he said, and this is common law. I said, yeah, it is. I said, this is between the man who owes me the money, and it's between myself. I said, we need to keep the paperwork the way it is. And he just leant over the clerk's shoulder, who was typing everything in the computer, and he said, leave the man's paperwork the way it is. It's his paperwork. Leave it alone. He said, and he said this will be passed to the judge. It'll get case stamped, and then there'll be a case file. He said, and the judge will take a glance at it. And I told him, I said, I'm going to private serve the man right now. I said, because it's important. He's been ducking and diving, trying to stay away from me.
Paul. Hey, Paul.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why don't you talk to them about the process server guy? How about that?
Yeah, I can do the process server, too, because I met him.
Talk about the process server, man. Do that.
Okay.
That's one.
when I got back from the courthouse with the papers, I'd already called a couple of process servers, and the one guy who sparked my attention was the one guy on the phone. He said, well, I won't process serve unless I know a little bit more about it. He said, because I had somebody hurt who's worked for me a number of years ago. I said, I can respect that. I said, I'll meet you when I come back. I'll call you on the way back. And I called him on the way back from the courthouse, and I said, I'm on my way back. Do you have time to meet? He said, sure. So we met, and he sat down, and I kind of spilled the beans a little bit. I was very apprehensive. And I said, I'm trying to serve somebody who works for the government. I said, but I'm serving him as a man. And very interesting words he chose. He said, you need to know. He said, I will only do process serve on something that is right or wrong. He said, you need to understand. He said, I want to be on the side who is right. And it sparked my attention so much. Let's call this guy's name John. I said, John, I said, a very unusual choice of words you have there. And he said, well, he said, in my line of work, we see a lot of things. He said, and I never ever, in my lifetime, ever want to be on the side of wrong. He said, people get hurt and harmed in wrong. He said, and I want to be on the side that is right. And I said, well, as far as I'm concerned, I've hired you right now. I said, but I will, being as you've shared those details with me, let me open the case file and kind of walk you through where I'm at, because this one process serving that I'm asking you to do is only the first one of 3 more to come. And I said, this first one is obviously against a man whose job every day of the week is to go work for the government. And he asked me, he said, what division of the government? And I showed him the letters. And he said, how important is this man? I said, he's a group coordinator. He's in charge of a number of men. And he said, do you think he's an honorable man? Do you think he is a man who recognizes a right and a wrong? I said, I do believe that. And he said, let me ask you about these other men. And he went down the list, and I said, that's the man you've got to be cautious of right there. I said, he is the one who will get what he wants at any cost. I said, one day they're going to read about him in the newspaper, doing bad things to other people just to get what he wants. And he said, well, let me tell you. He said, I've heard your story. He said, why is this man so important? I said, well, if you understood what they did to my son, you'll understand why I've decided to fight this from the ground up. And I told him the story about them sending 2 armed agents to my son's school to pull him from his school so they could serve him a grand jury subpoena. And the man's eyes got so big. And he said, if I could do it for free, I would. He said, but I'm going to charge you just the bare minimum it's going to take to get it to happen. He said, but I give you my word, I'm going to serve this one for you. And he had such a great heart, this man. And it was quite refreshing to hear somebody who used the term right and wrong just like Karl does. And I asked him, I said, do you have any experience with common law? And he said, well, I understand that common law is real law. He said, and we're so bamboozled with stuff that gets thrown to us. He said, nobody knows what's right and wrong anymore. And I said, John, I can't even tell you what those words mean to me. And one of the other things he brought up, he said, if you give me a full overview, he said, and I am sure that any man who I give this job to who works for me or myself, he said, I'm going to personally serve this one for you. He said, but the other 3, I may hand them off to one of the guys who works for me because we do a lot of other work, not just process serving. He said, but I need to know if they're dangerous men or not dangerous men, and I kind of gave a profile of each man we're dealing with. And he said, Paul, I haven't heard a story like yours in a lot of years. He said, there are divisions of the government that don't do what's right. He said, and you're obviously on the receiving end of one that's not doing right. He said, and hand on heart, I'm going to do everything I can to help you. He said, and I'll call you first thing in the morning. He said, don't even pay me any money today. He said, I'll meet you tomorrow. I'll show you the file of what I've already pulled up on the information on this man that you want to serve. And you can either confirm or deny it's the right man, and then I'll go after him and I'll serve him. And he even asked me, what day do you want him served? So there are great people out there. And if you shop your process servers, you'll even find process servers who have a heart and a conscience to do what's right and what's wrong. And they want to be a part of the solution, not the problem. So there are great people out there. We've just got to find them. And it's not the first phone call you make. It may be the second or third, just for those guys who are listening. I don't know where you went through this, Gus, at all up at your end when you did all your stuff, but there's some process servers will just take your money and say they'll do it. This process server even asked me, he said, is there any special words other than "you're served" that I need to use? And I said, well, if I could choose it, I said I would tell you, you can say, here is a common law claim against you, you're now served. And he said, I can do that. And just to hear those words was marvelous. So this guy was very, 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 very good. Obviously a stand-up man. He even shared a story of right and wrong, where he helped somebody process serve law enforcement entity in another county that was doing wrong. And he said, it cost me probably $20,000 worth of future business from those people. He said, but I slept at night knowing I'd done the right thing. And I think that's a rare event for us to meet men and women like that.
Hey, Paul, what did he say he did for a living in the past? Was he an ex-cop or something like that, or ex-military? Or?
He's actually runs one of the biggest private investigation companies in this area here.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if in his time before that or not, because I didn't get into that with him, but he came extremely highly recommended to me by some friends of mine at karate.
Okay, that's good. I just wondering that, huh?
Yeah, but he did explain. He said, I'm running a risk by serving this department of the government. He said that if they don't work, if they ever.
Well, how did he know? How did he know that you were serving government people?
Because I opened up and told him. I said, this man happens to the government. I said, and I want you to be aware of that.
Well, that's a good thing that you mentioned that on the show, because now I'm telling people, do not tell them that you're serving government people. Okay? I mean, Paul was nice, I guess.
I got nice when the guy used the term right and wrong.
But I'm saying, before that, did you tell him that you were serving a government man or no? No.
I met him. I showed him the.
Paul, I'm trying to teach other people. Like I said, this is what this show is really good about. It's me and you talking, because I know what happened. I'm going to interrupt every now and then to try to teach other people and say, see, this is what we're saying. Don't tell process servers you're serving a government person. It's going to be almost impossible to find a process server. Just like me with Terry McCuffle, whatever his name is, the governor. Thank God the court clerk lady didn't even know who the governor of Virginia was. Thank God. She was like, yeah, and we'll serve this Terry, whatever the hell's name is, McAleafy, whatever. I said, yeah, whatever. So thank God she didn't know, there's no miss, Terry McCuffle. Thank God she didn't know, She said, okay, I'll serve Anita Harris up here at the county center. So obviously she must have known. She must, be some sort of government employee, because I said, I know she works up here at the county center at 68, Dick Huff Lane. I said, so she's like, okay. So then she probably says to herself, okay, Anita Harris is a county worker, okay. And then we'll have serve whoever this person is, Terry McCuffle, McGapple. So yeah, believe me, I say, oh, I'm suing the governor. I was like, oh, Jesus, I mean, can you imagine if I was that stupid? It's like, I'm so stoked. I am going to so sue this effing governor. So I wrote Terry McGuffle, the grand governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia. No, I didn't put that on the paperwork. I said, wrongdoer, Terry McGuffle. Man, wrongdoer. I have not given anybody any heads up, Where can we find this guy? I don't know, man. I'll get his address some other day. It's like, oh, the governor's mansion. Yeah, oh, yeah, right. You want us to ring the doorbell at the governor's mansion? Man, this guy. Oh, yeah. Really? Let me read this lawsuit a little bit before I piss the governor off of, the 25th Circuit Court. They let this out of the courthouse. They let this clown file this thing. Can you imagine the grief that those people would get? Then if it clearly said on there, governor's mansion, Terry McGuffle, governor. It should be. They'd say, "Oh no, wait, we are not sending that out from here. Oh no, we did not need the governor's people down here, balking at us, saying, how the hell did you let this piece of paper get filed? How the hell?" I definitely tell people, do not put down their damn titles on these pieces of paper. Do not say he's the governor. Do not say he's the president of the United States. Do not do any of that nonsense. Like it says, you say the Barack Obama, what's his real name? Barry Sanders or something like that. So I'm suing Barry Sanders. Oh, where are you suing? I don't know, man. Can you just file it and I'll get you his address tomorrow? Oh, okay. And they filed it. Then the next day you come by and it's like, oh, did you get his address? I was like, oh, yeah, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Oh, okay. what Pennsylvania Avenue where? I don't know. I think it's near Maryland. I don't know. That's what you're saying. The zip code is right there. I don't know. I think that's near Washington or something. I'm not sure. Baltimore area. Just let the sheriff's department do their job. Don't get into damn detail.
Yeah.
Don't get into damn detail. So, like I said, Paul got into detail because he talked to the man a little bit. And what did you say? He said, when the man, go ahead, explain right and wrong. Go ahead. That's why you kind of opened up to him a little bit. But I don't recommend opening up to these people. You're scared of Jesus out of them.
Yeah. He was just right straightforward. He said, before I serve anybody, I just want to know, am I on the side of right or wrong? And I said, strange choice of words. I said, can you help me with that? And he said, what's happened to you that means you want to serve this man? I showed him the case. I said, I want my things back. He said, I got no problem with that. He said, are there other people you need serving as well? And I pulled up, obviously, the one guy with my son. Told him the story about that. He said, I don't care who he works for. He said, I'll serve him. He said, what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong. And these people are obviously wrong. That's what gave birth to it opening up.
Well, like I said, you and I know what your son is, but why don't you explain to people what your son is?
Well, he's a 15-year-old. He's in high school. He has no knowledge of anything that happened. And
the only knowledge that he has is that they came into the house. See, like I said, I've had other dads say that their sons were 25 years old, and how do I keep my 25-year-old son from testifying against me? It's like, if you created it, they can't use something that you created against you. Like if you made a chair, they can't hit you over the head with your chair. They can't do that. Explain a little bit about your son, that he's a nice kid. He
programs his phones for fun.
But I'm trying to describe him a little bit because you're not really doing a good job. I'm saying he's like a little slender fella. He's not big. Like when I was 15 years old, I'm 6 feet 2, 200 pounds. No, he's a nice little cute kid. Looks like he's like plays Atari videos, whatever, all day. He's a real nice kid. A real charming little fella, little cutie pie. So that's what I'm trying to explain to him, Paul. So you got to try to see people. This is video, or this is radio. This ain't video. So you got to try to explain, a little bit to get people a feel for you.
Yeah.
On radio, you're on radio.
He's a great kid, and he was, maybe 100 pounds wet through, probably. And they dragged two agents went to his school at a 15-year-old without any warning, without any notice to me, and they take him out of his class and drag him to the office to serve him a grand jury subpoena, and all the time slandering me for not taking a plea, and the whole time, and then trying to force him to talk. When it was all said and done, they're not allowed phones in the school. He got the computer science teacher to call me, and this guy, obviously a good-hearted man, called me and he said, your son is very upset. Something's happened up here. He said, and I don't think he should be in class anymore. I said, well, can I speak to him for briefly? He said, well, it's against policy, but I'm going to put him on because he's obviously, this should have never happened. And so he put him on, and I ended up picking him up from class, and he didn't even go back to school the next day because of what they'd done. But there's no feeling or helpfulness when dealing with these entities who work for the government when they're out.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm trying to say, because another man called me up, and he had a 25-year-old son, and he went before a grand jury, so I was helping him on the show. So most people have an idea what a 25-year-old man looks like, and most people have an idea what a 15-year-old looks like. And, like I said, your kid is, like you said, 100 pounds wet, and how tall would you say he is?
Well, he's getting taller. He's getting up near me. He's probably about 5'4", 5'5" now.
Yeah, see, so I'm trying to get people to visualize this. There's a 5'4" kid. He's 100 pounds. He's 15 years old. He just loves to play like a Nintendo all day kind of looking kid. He doesn't look like he wants to play football or rugby. He's just a kid. To have these agents come, in his classroom is obscene. I mean, there's no reason for it. I couldn't even see him catching a kid coming off a school bus. I mean, why don't they just come to your house and say, hey, what,
we're going to have to require you. Your child appeared because at the time that we came in and served the warrants on you, he was in the home, and we want him to testify to what he heard or what he saw. So what exactly did they want from him? What information did they say that they wanted from him?
I don't know. I let him talk to Donald, but I didn't even jump in the middle of that one at the moment. I'm just concentrating on my end of it. What I will tell you is when he went to Grand, they served him that subpoena, and I ended up getting him a legal servant, and the legal servant took him to an interview for a few minutes.
Counsel, attorney, legal. You're saying there's an attorney?
Yeah.
Who got him the attorney?
I did. I paid for one.
Okay, so you got him an attorney. Okay. Yeah, see, a legal servant, a lot of people you just lost, when you said servant.
Yeah, I got him an attorney. I paid for a couple hours at a time. Attorney took him for an interview, and the basis of the interview was that he wouldn't have to go to a full grand jury appearance. Well, these people are so callous and inhumane in all ways that when the interview was over, they served him a subpoena anyway, another subpoena for another date. So we ended up going, and that's when Donald came over at Christmas, and Donald escorted him into the courthouse up there and was with him as next friend while I went to park the vehicle. And Donald hadn't even been in there a few minutes when Donald asked the question about, there's some grand jury coordinator, and he'd asked some questions. And this agent, who is one of the more brazen agents, came out with a subpoena for Donald. And it had Donald's name on, no address. They didn't know anything about Donald. But the agent, I just walked in on it when I got there. The agent comes out and hands Donald a subpoena while Ian's inside the grand jury. And I've never seen a government employee quite so confused in his life, Carl. Donald asked the man, this one agent, he said, the man's trying to hand in the paper, and Donald's got one hand on the paper but not fully accepting it. And Donald's looking at this man in the eye, and he's asking him, he said, who is giving me this paper? The agent said, well, it's the district court. And Donald asked him again, he said, who is giving me this paper? And he said, well, it's the district court. And you can see the agent's eyes started vibrating and rolling in his head. And then Donald asked him for the third time, he said, who is serving me this paper? Who is trying to give me this paper? And who signed this paper? And the agent, he was just, he lost it. And he said, it's the damn district court or something. And then Donald just gave it to him, and he said, look, he said, I didn't say what is serving, I said who. Who are you? Who are you? Do you know who you are? Do you even know who you are? And the agent, he couldn't. He ran in the back room like a scalded dog and went and got the district attorney out.
What did the district attorney do?
Well, the district attorney then he came out and he said, do you understand what this piece of paper is? And Donald says, I understand, and I believe that this piece of paper is addressed to a person who goes by the name of Donald Watson. And he said, really? He said, yes. He said, who is the man who gives me this paper? Who is the man who signed this? He said, well, that was me. He said, well, what is your name? And he said, well, my name is whatever it was. And he said, well, I'm a man. He said, do you want me to make a special appearance for this? He said, well, you've been served. You better be here or we'll arrest you. He was pretty aggressive. Yeah. And Donald, and I leaned over to the agent. I said, you do understand this man doesn't live in America. He lives in England, because they then told me.
Yeah, what's kind of good is what Donald should have said is, are you communicating to me a threat? Are you threatening me? It's like, no, it's a damn promise. I was like, oh, okay, so you are committing extortion. You just threatened your fellow man. I'm man, you're man, and you just threatened me.
Yeah.
Say, is there a prosecutor nearby that I could, ask him if he'd be willing to investigate to see whether there's probable cause to take you up on charges for extortion? And he'd say, name the bloody fucking prosecutor. That'd be funny. That'd be cool. He's like, I guess we're going to have to self-prosecute. You're going to have to do one of those, who's that free man guy? He's going to do the PAG, the private attorney general guy. What's his name? Rod Class. Yeah, you're going to have to do a Rod Class. Do a private attorney general. Well, then I'm going to prosecute you as a private attorney general. That would have been too funny. You started going down that chippy lane. That would have been funny. So anyway, he said that he said he started barking out all flavors of hell, saying if you don't get here, you'll be under arrest. Okay, then what happened from there?
Well, I leant over and I looked at the agent in the eye. I said, you do understand that Donald, this man here, I said, you do understand he doesn't live in America. I said, $40 isn't going to get him to your special appearance.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you mean? I said, he lives in England. And he said, it was like he didn't want to hear that information, therefore he switched his brain off. And I told him 3 times, Donald heard it, I heard it, he ignored it. Well, apparently, about, I don't know if it was a week ago, a few days ago.
He probably realized he don't have jurisdiction.
Well,
he doesn't have jurisdiction over somebody, who's a foreigner.
Yeah.
Well, somebody who is what would be called like an illegal alien, because you see, he's not a legal person, and he's alien to us. He has no comprehension of what's going on in our legal system.
correct.
So see, when you say illegal alien, that's a wonderful thing to be. I mean, I'd love it if when I walked in the courtroom, said, "Are you an illegal alien?" They said, "You damn bet, you better believe I am." I'm not a legal person, and I am alien to I do. You cannot lien me. Like A means not, and lien. You cannot lien me. Like I don't say I am a man. I said, when you see me, you see man. You're man, I'm man. That's what you see. A lien, an alien. I said, that's right. You can't lien me. Right, I'm an illegal. That's right. I'm not legal. An alien. You're damn right. I'm not lienable. You can't push a charge on me. You can't pass judgment on me. I'm an illegal alien. Damn right. So anyway, so he understood that, man, that he can't serve, something for somebody who's not within his control, his jurisdiction. He can't order somebody to do that, because he'd have to have authority over him. And I've been trying to concentrate all week about authority, and authoritarian. Authoritarian means I can impose my orders upon you. I don't have to compensate you. I can impose orders on you, and you just like mommy. Mommy imposes orders on you. Say vacuum the damn thing, do this, do that, do that. You can't handle a bill for $500. Say I vacuumed and I did all stuff. No, she can impose orders upon you because she's an authoritarian figure over you. So go ahead, Paul.
A few days ago, I guess probably about a week ago, I'd just give you some background. When we knew Donald was coming back because of this mess, I gave him a SIM card that works worldwide for the business, and we haven't used it for a while. So he goes to England, slides a SIM card in, and the district attorney calls him in England, and Donald will tell you more accurately. But the basis of the information is they call him to ask him questions on the phone, and the very aggressive agent is the witness at the district attorney's office who's sitting in on the call. And Donald asked him just some basic questions, and he said, well, you do understand we're only going to pay you $40 for your appearance, and I understand you tried to let people know your expenses ahead of time and this and that. And Donald just said, $40 isn't going to cover it. I've already booked my flight so I can be there on the 13th. The district attorney did a double take. And he said, but I'm calling a number in America. He said, yeah, that's correct. He said, but I'm stood right now on the hills of Yorkshire.
Yeah.
He said, well, we can finish the interview right here. You don't have to come. And he said, no, it's too late. I have the flight booked, and I will see you on the 13th.
Yeah. See, and that's what's funny, because I was pushing you guys like a million times, and you better get the itinerary routed through the Department of Justice or whoever's serving you, with the district court, and make them fully aware, of what's going on. So, like I said, this is going to be interesting, because I have to see where, like I said, that's what I always tell people, always make sure it's in the form of writing, any kind of proof that they're going to acknowledge that you made them aware that he was not, within the territorial borders of the United States, that he was outside of their jurisdiction, and yet he was summoned to appear, and did you folks let them know? I mean, did you send him an email? Did you send him a text message? Is there any kind of written proof, or is it just hearsay?
It was in front of 2 court officers at the district court, and myself and Donald, but I think Donald followed it up with emails, calls, and a letter.
That's good.